Thanks for having me, guys. Happy New Year to you, too.
Well, we got a lot to discuss around a team that didn't make the playoffs and isn't preparing for a game this weekend. Let's start with Bradford because we've talked a lot about the coaches leading up to you here. You write about it over at PhillyMag.com, Birds 24/7, about his options. Kind of break it down for the people because he is a free agent. What are the options of Sam Bradford, and what are the options of the Eagles to keep him here?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Spot Track, they're a website that does a lot of, kind of reporting in detail about contracts. That was kind of the big news recently. They estimated that Bradford would be worth, a deal for 3 years, about $19 million per year. That's in line with, talking to an agent. I think it was a couple of weeks ago now, projected Sam Bradford to get $15 to $20 million. So it seems like a pretty safe range, particularly close to the $20 million mark that he would get. And in terms of his options, I mean, there are 4 teams, I think, that really need quarterbacks. Obviously, you have the Browns. The Johnny Football experiment really couldn't have gone much worse. Not only is he an off-the-field problem, but it doesn't really do much for you on the field either. The Texans, now, I mean, they're an interesting story. They made the playoffs and won the division, albeit in a weak AFC South, with no franchise quarterback. I mean, they had 4 different quarterbacks start for them this season, but that's a position that you can really see them trying to make a big move to address to get that quarterback. And, that could really be the big stepping stone to be a contender. You have the 49ers, who Chip Kelly has been linked to. Will Colin Kaepernick be the guy going forward? Will the new head coach want someone else? And then, of course, the St. Louis Rams. I mean, it couldn't really be more ironic that, just one season after the Eagles and Rams swapped quarterbacks, both teams may be looking for new starters at that position. We all know how bad Foles was, and Case Keenum doesn't exactly scream franchise quarterback. So those are 4 teams that really need quarterbacks. That could kind of drive up Sam Bradford's price. But I think the Eagles need to make it a priority, assuming the new head coach wants him, to keep Bradford in the fold going forward.
How much do you believe, Josh, then Bradford? The next head coach is tied to his decision. I mean, if they hire Adam Gase, does that help? If they hire Shermer, does that really help? If they go defense, does that hurt? What is your opinion on how the coach impacts Bradford's future in Philadelphia?
Oh, yeah. Bradford's made it clear that whoever the next head coach is will affect his decision. I mean, his kind of big philosophy of why he wanted to return to Philadelphia before Chip got fired was, I've really never had time to spend multiple seasons of the same offense. I'm tired of having to learn a new system every year. That's something that's stunting my growth. I mean, instead of focusing on the fundamentals and my footwork and my pocket movement, I have to learn a new offense every year. So if the Eagles keep Pat Shermer, obviously they would keep the concepts and schemes and terminology that Sam Bradford is used to. Now, if you go with a new head coach that from outside the building, then like an Adam Gase, even though they have experience obviously with working with quarterbacks, and that's how they develop their reputation, you don't know really how that would jive with Bradford. So that's one of the reasons that he's not a sexy name and he's not someone that will excite the fans. But I think Shermer has a real chance to be the Eagles' next head coach, even if fans aren't really hoping for that.
Yeah, I'm kind of feeling the same way you are. How essential to you is it for Philadelphia to retain Bradford, knowing this draft is, doesn't have that standout guy, and where they're picking, they're probably not going to be able to get him. And without that second-round pick, they probably don't have the ammo to move up, even if they like somebody. And 2, knowing how weak this free agent class is.
Yeah, I mean, I think, kind of like you said, there are 2 big reasons the Eagles need to retain Sam Bradford. I mean, there's really no alternative that you can point your finger to and say, okay, this is a guy we should really target, whether it's free agency or the draft before we're picking at number 13 overall. We'll be able to get him and we'll be able to kind of invest in him and build off of the future. But I think the larger reason that you want to keep Sam Bradford is because of his play to end the season. Now, part of it was Sam Bradford just completely skewed expectations in the preseason, especially that Green Bay. After that Packers game, people were thinking, okay, he's going to be a comeback player of the year. He's going to see us through a Super Bowl. That kind of raised expectations a little too high for him. So when he had kind of the natural adjustment period, learning a new offense, learning a new system, he really got criticized, and rightfully so. I mean, he did not play well. He did not look good, but he made that jump. And I think what really helped his growth was something that Pat Shermer alluded to. Even though he was, physically healthy in the beginning of the season, he wasn't really all the way back mentally. He hadn't played, really at all in the previous 2 seasons. And even though his knee was fine, he had to be able to, okay, I can take a hit now. I can move around. I can play my game without fear of getting hurt. So I think that mental growth is really what you saw lead to the success that he had, particularly in the last 5 or 6 starts that he made.
Let me ask you then about Doug Peterson. And I know Andy Reid, a lot of people were ready for that era to end. Do you think that Laurie is ready to revisit it, making Peterson, more of a favorite than other people would think?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I definitely think that that's an era that, Jeffrey Lurie would want to revisit. I mean, that's something that you've heard players allude to was, obviously after Chip was fired, the most popular and common question a player was asked was, what are you looking for in your next head coach? And a part of it, which I thought was a little ironic given Chip's background, was people saying they wanted, a coach with an NFL background. But also some guys specifically said, I want an Andy Reid type guy. I want that kind of coach. That's the type of man I want to play for. And so I think it's definitely reasonable to think that Jeffrey Lurie would want to revisit it and would even lean toward revisiting that era, because even though he got fired and it didn't work out in the end, he had a lot of success while he was here in terms of the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
And if you can take that and take it to the next step, getting and winning Super Bowls, then I think that's something that's definitely appealing to Jeffrey Lurie.
Josh Paunil, Birds 24/7, PhillyMag.com. Obviously, the season in the books. A lot of very tough decisions for this team to make. I don't know, what's more important, the Bradford decision or the coaching decision?
That's a great question. And I mean, it really goes back to what you were saying before. They're kind of tied together. The coaching decision will affect if Bradford comes back, and Bradford's success, or if he is back, will determine the fate of the head coach. I mean, it's no secret that a head coach is kind of tied to the success of his quarterback, and that was a big reason. Well, not the biggest reason, obviously, for Chip, but one of the reasons why he wasn't able to identify that franchise quarterback and have a guy that he knew he could build around going forward early on. Mm-hmm. That's one thing that hurt him. But that's what they're going to be tied together. Sam Bradford, the next head coach, whether Sam Bradford is back or not, the decision to either let him go or retain him will play a huge part in whether the coach has any success.
Josh Paunil, everybody, 2016. Happy New Year to you, pal. And, of course, I'm sure we'll talk plenty during this offseason with a lot going on, a very important offseason now for the Howie Roseman-led front office of the Philadelphia Eagles. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks for having me.